it's always one of those things where it's just like you want this to not work, but then it does. Uh,
Yeah.
but anyway, I think we should get started because why not? But
Okay.
yeah, hello guys. This is actually going to be a very special episode of the Hazard Cast. Primarily because this is actually not being live streamed. Reason is that I didn't really want to at that time, and also, yeah. And besides, I feel like recording it would be a little bit better for for my stuff because then I won't have to worry about lag and shit. But anyway, what we're going to be going over is going to be a couple of things. There wasn't really much to discuss, but the couple of things that we would discuss does have a lot of stuff in it, and I'm happy about it. With one of them actually
Mm.
being a really fucking annoying thing that will cause me to go on a rant, so that'll be fun. Also, by the way, I'm not alone. Sapphire is here as well, also known as Poke.
Yeet.
And so we might as well start off with the first thing that I think everyone here, and by everyone I mean both of us, whether you guys watching are enjoying this as well, is the reveal that happened on Tuesday, August 24th, of Witch Queen and Season of the Lost. If you guys don't know, for some context, both of us have been huge Destiny players. Saf has been in it since Destiny 1. I've been kind of like a passive viewer during Destiny 1, but then got in vanilla beta of Destiny 2 on the PC. And I think that's what, for the majority of our time that isn't like spent in unique games, it's primarily Destiny. I mean, up
Yeah.
until recently, that is, because you've gone to Final Fantasy for a little bit, and you're enjoying that, and then I've been going into other things, like I've been playing some Need for Speed and all that, doing Stellaris and other stuff, but they recently actually did a fun thing of the reveal. And so normally when they do the reveals, it will be like for the same day that they're launching the last season of the year. Also, we'll be talking more about Witch Queen. In this case, was the next year in the Destiny 2 timeline. And the whole event was about an hour and a half long, with the last half hour being where all the stuff got like packed into it. And the when when we were reacting to it live, we actually have I had the VOD of that on the Twitch channel, so you might want to check that out. But we were excited. I think both of us were very happy about that. Especially because for me, I was happy about it because now we're actually like it's confirmed we're dealing with Savathun, and also you have fucking Hive Guardians, and that's where that brings into a new thing altogether because who knows, the person that you may see the blade barrage might not be from a Guardian. And then also, on top of that, they did bring in like a new weapon type, a new location, and it's just like, oh, it's so good. If you haven't seen any of the openings or anything of that, do check that out. The cinematics are wonderful. The gameplay that they show off is pretty cool as well. And I mean, with that, I think the fact that I, literally, what was it? I think 15 or 30, like 15, 20 minutes after they revealed it, I think Commando and I bought it like pre-order the deluxe edition, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly. Yeah. Um, and so on top of that, they also, they did announce the launch of the Season of the Lost. Now, this was a very interesting season because normally what will happen is that it will be about, 3 months of a season, and then the new year would come through, or then like in this case, it would have been Witch Queen. But because of COVID-19, they have pushed back the release of both the of Witch Queen and of the other seasons. So it was we did get a receive. I think it was 4 months, if I remember correctly. For season of the Splicer. It was like four. It was like I think 4 or 5 months, and then for season of the Lost, it is going to be the longest.
What? No, season of Splicer was only 3 months.
Was it only 3 months? I thought it had.
It was May to August.
May to. Really? I thought it was like. I thought it was longer than that. I forget. Like it just didn't feel.
It started May 11th.
Huh. Oh, it was like a month and a half, like 3 months and a half. All right, so that makes sense. Cause I remember it was like over 100 days, and I was like, okay, like that's a sizable amount. But moving on from there, it's literally twice the season, like 2 seasons worth of time, of 6 months from August 24th until February 22nd. Of 2022, and that's when Witch Queen is going to launch. And so that did put a lot of people on on edge, especially because it's 6 months, and we had just this one little, like, we had the season content. And then if you have played the other content before, you realize that a lot of it is going to be based off of like one or two seasonal activities. And that's it. It's just becoming repetition on that. Now, the good thing is that this also kind of coincided with the Bungie's 30th year of existence. So it is their 30th year anniversary. And so they actually did bring in a new addition to it, which is essentially bringing back a lot of the hive armor, cosmetics, and then also a good old legend from the past. Gallowhorn's coming back, and obviously you would have to buy that as well. That was, I think, $25, if I remember correctly.
It is $25.
Yeah, so it's separate. It's $25, but
so let's go ahead and talk about that for a moment. So the price point, the asking price point that they're asking for this is $25. Now, I'm assuming the argument that they're making for this is the fact that it's going to have all these cosmetics that come with it. Because the problem is that a lot of, basically, majority of the stuff that's in the season, you could basically find that content in a normal $10 season, especially since Season of the Rivals existed.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that has been a point of contention for the community that seems to have it kind of split in half. Now, personally, I don't really care about the price because I think it's whatever. I'm willing to pay the $25, and I don't care that much. That's personally a me thing, but I do think it is a talking point because of the fact that this stuff was being sold to us before for only $10, and now we're getting an entire update that is going to cost $25 and is going to wall off Gallowhorn.
I mean, I think the one thing is that for me, the way that I see it is that one, again, I'm on the same thing as you, as I have no problem putting in that money because one, I do, I believe in Bungie. They're not like other AAA developers, even though we, mock them and, shit talk them because they, aren't able to put an anti-cheat until now. But it's still the fact of one, they're very dedicated to what they're doing. I mean, if you see the showcase that they had before, it was you had Bungie staff essentially saying oh, I remember when when I first turned on Halo, they were fans of Bungie before even working at Bungie, and then they also enjoy it as well. I mean, hell, if you see some of the community managers, you see them oh yeah, we're just hopping on right now. It's after work. We're going to be doing the raid. Awesome. All that stuff. And it shows a lot because, you don't see that from any other community managers from any other company if they even have one, you know? And because I'm not seeing any kind of like exec being like, "Oh, time to play Call of Duty or play Warzone or anything of that sort." I mean, granted, it's the whole fact of, "Oh yeah, I make a shit ton of money and all that stuff," but the whole thing was like, for me, I believe in like, in them more than any other company. So for me, I would see that that is a worthy price point to like for that. But it's still the fact of, looking at, oh, it's additional content. Why do we have to pay extra to it? Is definitely a good spot to kind of start off. Because I think the one thing is that,
Well, it's not a matter of it being extra content. Why do we have to pay for it? It's a matter of why does this specific bundle cost $25 in the U.S., $30 in Canada, by the way,
oh yeah,
and, and $25. But we're gonna go out based off the U.S.
yeah, yeah.
$25. Uh, why do we have to pay $25 for something that has essentially been sold to us for $10 before? That I think that's the question a lot of people are asking.
I mean, the way that I see it, and I think the one thing is that it does seem kind of weird that, here we are, I'm essentially paying like for another season, but I'm paying like twice the price. And it just doesn't make sense on why it's going through. And the way that I'm seeing it is that it is weird, especially because one, it's something that you would assume is like, oh, there should be a part of this season, especially since this season's literally 6 fucking months, and this stuff is coming down the line on, in December. Like, why isn't it a part of that? And I think the one thing about that is because that was never the intention. The way that they had this set up, the best way to show it is look at, Shadowkeep. Shadowkeep's system was very straightforward. You got your drop of the content drop. Then you had, Season of the Undying, Worthy. No, sorry, Season of Dawn,
Well,
Worthy,
I think.
and Arrivals. And
Mhm.
that led up perfectly to Beyond Light. Now, when it came into the fact of, Beyond Light, that is when COVID hit. Like, COVID was in the middle of, if I remember correctly, just as Beyond Light like was launched. Like, hell, they pushed it back a little bit, if I remember correctly, didn't they? Because it was supposed to
Yeah,
be
they
in
pushed it back from September to November.
yeah, like they pushed it back significantly. It was a huge thing because one, like, every single time that they bring out a season, it would be in September. I remember when Forsaken came out, that came out in September. I think everything with Destiny 2, with the only exception of Beyond Light and the PC version of Destiny 2 going live, has always been in September, because I remember that it was live on Xbox and PlayStation in September, and then it was available for PC players 1 month after.
Yeah, that was the original vanilla release. Yes,
Yep. And
but
so,
that's because of the fact that they hadn't finished the
no, of
PC
course, yeah,
version yet.
that is definitely
And when
like,
the PC version did launch, it was basically an extremely smooth launch for a company that hadn't made a PC game in well over a decade.
I think at that point, what it was,
The
I
last
think it was
I don't even know if they
12,
worked on the
15
Halo
maybe.
2 port.
I don't know. That's because I was thinking of that. Yeah, like the Halo 2 port. Like, who made the Halo like 2 port?
But it was their first PC game in so long that it was pretty wild that it came out as well as it did.
Yeah, yeah, it did. But I think the one thing is about it is that is, looking at it and seeing how this was, and it, again, like, for us, like, a lot of people kind of understood that, okay, yeah, that's fine for the delays. Like, we understand the whole thing about delays. Because now that, Bungie, its own company, it does have investors, but it doesn't have shareholders like Activision, where it's they have to force out and churn, which, again, it's a double-edged sword, where it's like, oh, you don't have to worry about making stockholders happy, but also you don't have the resources backing you, at the size of Activision, Blizzard, which, by the way, I kind of want to talk about something, but that will be down the line in regards to them. But in the case for this, I think the one thing is just the fact that because that there was a huge delay, essentially, like a 5-month delay from September, from September all the way until February. I wouldn't be surprised if the the Bungie 30-year pack was going to be like an event type deal, like an additional event type deal for possibly the Dawning. Again, this is going off of speculation. I do not know if this is what they're playing.
We're still not even sure if the Dawning's happening this year because
That's true.
there's nothing on the site to even indicate that it is.
That's true. This is just going to be a very interesting season, because I feel like, I don't know. I feel like the one thing is that there's a possibility that it can go through, like that may happen, like the Donnie may happen. Although, just like with other seasons before, you play one, you'll play them all. I mean, that's kind of how I felt about the whole Solstice of Heroes. Like, there was really nothing there that was like, oh, this is unique. Nah, you're still at the same map. They made some good changes to the activity as well, which is great. But, in the end, you're killing bosses. You kill main boss, and, oh, let's go and get the treasure chests. But I wouldn't be surprised if they still maintain the Dawning, even though they don't provide us with the roadmap, which kind of sucks in my opinion. Like, I really wish they provided that, or at least had give some idea of oh yeah, this is when this is happening. This is when this is happening. Like, hell, I wouldn't
Again, it's like what I said at the beginning of the season, when the season started and we realized that they had not released the roadmap. I would rather know what the dead months are gonna be, so that I can figure out what I want to do and kind of plan things, rather than have it just sprung up upon me randomly and now, okay, what do I want to do?
Yeah, like, come on, give me some time to play Battlefield.
I don't know, I feel like it's kind of weird. Like, obviously, I imagine the dead months are supposed to be January and February, because of the fact that
only an interesting thing.
But the only thing that's coming out around then is the anniversary bundle.
Yeah, but I think if we really look at it, going off of the kind of expected time frame, I would say the main dead month would be likely February to early March.
All I'm saying is you're probably not going to see me playing Destiny a whole lot in November.
Oh, 100% I'm not going to either. Especially because
I have a very specific reason.
Is there a new expansion coming out then?
Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker releases on November 23rd.
Yep. I had a feeling.
So November and December are going to be just kind of like dead months for me, and because of the fact that I pre-ordered, because of the fact that I got the collector's edition for Endwalker, the digital collectors, I get 3 days early access. So
yo, let's go. You better stream that stuff.
Am I even allowed to stream early access stuff? I don't know.
I mean, unless
my sad thing is that I really want to play early access, but also at the same time I'm kind of hesitant because of the fact that
NDAs
For
exist.
Shadowbringers, they didn't let you. They did not let you play the new classes early for early access. They let you go through the story and everything, but not the classes.
I
So
mean,
I'm wondering if they're gonna like stop us from playing Reaper and Sage.
well, one, I don't think you can because one's from Valor and one's from Overwatch, but that's besides the point. Um,
Bad joke.
Shut up. That was a good one.
Bad joke.
It was a good one. But anyway,
Pretty bad.
but instead of looking kind of like in regards to it, to really see, I would say like the value of the $25. Um, that's always going to be up for debate. I mean, I think that's going to be something where everyone is going to be, saying like, oh, it shouldn't be this much. Oh, it shouldn't be this expensive. And then you have some that's like, man, I'm glad that it's this cheap. I'm glad that they didn't shill up, like ask us to shill more than anticipated. And I think because I actually was in a raid with a bunch of LFG guys, and you hear like I heard both sides of the story right there. Because I heard like one person's like, man, I understand why we have to pay extra for this. This is something that should be part of the content because again we have like a 6 fucking month period. I don't understand what this for. Like they're selling shit back to us and using the Galathorn as bait. And then I had someone else is like, people are just undervaluing Destiny 2's expansions. Like, yeah, maybe there's not a lot of content, but even though like even with like the a minimum amount of content that they have, there's still more than enough to satisfy that $10. Like people are expecting these to be like $1 like per season or something like that, and it's just like I can understand both of them, both like points of view. Again, granted, I lean more on the fact that people kind of undervalue Destiny 2's like seasons because just on the on the battle pass alone, I would say it's worth the $10. But the activities themselves, those are still pretty fun. I mean, I still remember going through through Season of Splicer and just doing overrides and expunge missions. I preferred overrides because those were really really fun. The amount of like enemies that we were fighting was just so much, and it was just like perfect. There were some places where it was like, oh, you gotta like fight over each other, but other times it was good. And I think again, it's just the way that like people look at it because people maybe like whoever is saying like, oh, this is too expensive for this is likely one of those people who like only does it for the expected time, possibly because it's so repetitive they get bored very easily, which I do get. I mean, hell,
I think
yeah.
here's the problem. Bungie has done this to themselves,
Oh,
and I'm gonna
100%.
say why. Bungie decided that seasons were gonna be $10, and I understand. For $10, you get, for the most part, most seasons have been fairly worth it for $10. More than worth it, I would argue.
Oh,
A lot of
100%.
people are like, a lot of people have this like stupid idea that like the seasons don't give you enough for what they cost, and I'm like, if you genuinely think that what the seasons are giving you for $10 are not enough, I don't know what games you're playing. Because it's not Final Fantasy 14. I'm telling you right now, if Final Fantasy 14, you're to pay $10 for something in that game, they'd probably give you barely a little more than what Destiny does.
I think the one thing is that like they I think they still have the under the assumption that, oh, this is going off of the same basis of their whole Activision model type deal where it's like, oh, they're just they're just using this
Which I
just
don't quite
that.
understand,
But
because
again, yeah, I don't either. Like
because the Shadowkeep year should have told them exactly what seasons were going to be like.
yeah, and I mean
If
like
Regardless of whether we like seasons or not, the fact is that they come with well over $10 worth of content.
oh 100%.
Undying, even though it didn't quite like the season of Undying, definitely came with enough content for that.
I think
Season of the Dawn, I thought was fantastic, and
I
like I
love
love that
Season
one.
of the
Season of the Worthy, as much as I'm bored with it, let's be fucking honest. At some point, they were gonna have trouble figuring something out for $10.
I mean the way that I see it, in like again, let's use last year as an example. The looking at Season of the Dawn, Season of Arrivals, I think those were, especially Season of Arrivals, I think was the best because we got something new. We got the Prophecy Dungeon then, and I think the one thing that people kind of like aren't understanding is like that's showing like, oh, there's a lot of like stuff that you can do, but again, it's a ton of things that needs to be worked on. And then we look at Season of the Worthy. Yeah, it was essentially considered like a dead season. But if you really look at just the activities themselves, what you needed to do, what you wanted to grind for, going through different bases, going through all the kind of the pieces of lore and all that, I would like it would be kind of a difficult thing to look at, to say like, oh, I didn't get my $10 worth. Like I would say I got my $10 worth. 15 maybe, if I benefit of a doubt, but at least I know that I can't really deny the fact that I got my $10 worth out of
Mm-hmm.
that. And
Which kind of brings me to my point. Like Bungie has done this to themselves, where they've kind of priced things at $10, which then makes the anniversary bundle look kind of weird because of the fact that Arrivals existed.
yeah,
Arrivals came with a new dungeon that was not you didn't actually have to pay for. It was free to everyone.
yep, it was free to everyone. It was actually able to be ran through same day.
And came with fantastic cosmetics, came with fantastic challenges that you could get through solo and flawless,
Literally
and
came up with
came with an amazing loot system that is the original Umberland Ground, not the current one, the original Umberland Ground system.
the one that
Had
everyone loves.
very little frustration. Like people had very little frustrations with Arrivals outside of the small drought that came at the end because of Beyond Light getting delayed. But there's nothing you can really do about that.
Well, I mean that.
But
Yeah.
Arrivals, the fact that Arrivals exist hurts the anniversary bundle because now people look at the anniversary bundle, compare it to Arrivals, and are like, why? Why should I pay $25 to get a fucking dungeon and some cosmetics when I paid $10 last year for Arrivals, which came with just that?
Yeah, I think when you
In it's it's an understandable argument because let's be honest, Bungie fucked themselves over by doing that.
oh, 100%. I mean, the one thing is that the whole aspect
And they're
of
about to fuck themselves over even more. And you know why?
I
Because they announced that every season in year what five four
I think it's
five
year 5 at
year
this point.
five
Yeah,
every
because
season in year 5 is gonna get it's gonna rotate between getting a dungeon or a raid.
yep,
How does that look when every season is going to be $10 and each of them are going to have a dungeon and a raid? And how does that reflect upon the anniversary bundle?
yeah, I think
I think it's hard to argue against people who are against the price when Bungie does the stuff that fucks themselves over.
yeah.
Again, like I personally don't care. I'm going to buy it regardless of it
Yeah.
being 25 or not. But it is very perfectly understandable for these people who are frustrated about it to be frustrated because not only did we have Arrivals, but they in that same stream where they talked about the anniversary bundle, they talked about how every season in the next year is going to get a dungeon or a raid.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I'm more concerned about is the aspect of the dungeons and the aspects of the raid, because I know that they're going to be bringing back another D1 raid. They've announced that, they've confirmed that,
I
and
imagine it has to be King's.
I'm thinking King's Fall. I'm also kind of hoping it's King's Fall. A lot of people
I
are saying
can't
Wrath of the
imagine any
Machine, but
world where they bring back Crota just because of the fact that Oryx
technically,
is more relevant to Witch Queen.
and also it's isn't it stated that Crota is dead?
Well,
Like,
both Oryx and Crota are dead.
yeah, but I mean, it literally was cemented in year one of Destiny 1, because that was the first DLC raid that came out, if I
Yeah,
remember
that's
correctly.
where we killed him in his throne world, yeah.
Yeah. And so the one thing that I think we would definitely need to like keep an eye on is just when, because when we look back at, like, they brought back the Vault of Glass, which, is a wonderful raid. I still, I
Here's the thing.
greatly
The
enjoy
only
that.
raid I really want them to bring back is Wrath.
Yes, Wrath would be
And
fucking
I
amazing.
am going to make a controversial statement. I think all the raids in Destiny 1 are boring except for Wrath.
I can agree with you on that. I still
And the
think
reason why I say this is because let's go ahead and take a look at Vault. The Vault in D1, it has the same problem in D2. Takes forever to get through the first few sections because they're basically time gated no matter what.
I think I think they did a better job in D2's version, because instead of like, oh, you just need to shoot the oracles as soon as you see them, it's like, oh, you got to pay attention. Like that shit, like the shit that you were pulling off in
Yeah, but it's
D1
not
with
that much attention. It's like you
valid.
can literally just line people up in positions and not care.
I mean, hell, you can still like two-man that shit. But I think that it's still the fact that it is
But the point is this Vault has an entire section where it's boring, and I still to this day find both the Templar fight and the Atheon fight to be kind of boring in both versions
I can
of
see
the
that.
fight. Crota is literally is basically just a mini dungeon with a boss fight that is a really cool concept, but works better as a dungeon, as we've seen with the Nightmare Hunt.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's like you might as well just play the Nightmare Hunt. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's no.
King's Fall, the only good boss fight, the only interesting boss fight in that raid
Wasn't it the
is
twins?
Golgoroth.
No. Oh yeah, Golgoroth was a more interesting one.
Because you know what every other boss fight is?
Isn't it like you step on plates and then you shoot? Yeah,
Exactly.
that one is like you actually
Fucking
gotta move.
exactly. Every boss in that raid, except for Golgoroth, is stand on the plate.
Yeah, and I think
People overhype King's Fall and like all the raids from D1. But let's be honest, the only one where you're like in the majority of the raid, not standing around doing like nothing, is Wrath. Because even in Wrath, like you're trying to first boss fight, you're trying to kill enemies to get orbs to bring down the shield of the boss. Second boss fight, because of the fact that it's the same boss, you're doing the same thing, except you're also watching for to be able to go ahead and combine the throws to be able to do extra damage. There are dynamics to the boss fights. There are different things that you can do. Wrath was the pinnacle of raiding in Destiny 1. And that is the reason why I love it. It's because it has you focusing up. All of the other raids I find are exciting in certain ways because of the fact that you have Golgoroth and you have the cool factor of like Oryx being so big.
oh
But
yeah,
let's be honest, you can only really look at Oryx being so big before you're like, let's just kill this idiot.
yeah, and also kind of going over the fact of like, Wrath of the Machine being like one of like the better ones is also something that kind of makes me sad, because depending on what they do for, with the Grazza district, as of right now, it is likely that we're not gonna get a revamp of Scourge of the Past unless it's in a different location. As of right now, primarily
Well, I
because
don't. Here's the thing, right? Vault has essentially destroyed any argument about that because of the fact that with Vault, they literally did not change the story of it. They admitted to that. They said that, and they basically said that whenever they bring back a thing, they're gonna keep it as kind of a memory in time. So they
uh,
wouldn't even need to revamp any of the raids to bring them back. Would I like revamps to see what they could do with them? Yeah. But do they need to? No, because of the fact that because of their decision with Vault of Glass, there is no longer a standard.
yeah, I think the one thing though is just like, and I'll always praise fucking Scourge of the Past because that boss fight is one of the most interactive ones in Destiny 2 outside of like as of like pre Beyond Light. And I say that because you have Deepstone Crypt now that
Look,
has.
if they had fixed the Riven fight, I would argue otherwise. But since
Oh
they
yes,
never
that's
fixed
true.
the Riven fight, since they never fixed that,
That is, yeah, that's the only thing, the only reason why I'm not bringing that up is because it's something you could still go through and say like, it's a damage strat. It's like, yeah, but I mean, you're literally ignoring like 90% of the mechanics that you guys put in. Like, I don't know why you're like, oh yeah, this is fine, this is okay. It's like, no, it's not. Like if you guys don't know,
here's the
of the
thing,
Ribbon
right?
fight, essentially you can like cheese the entire thing. You were able to do this since Forsaken came out. Like literally if you were at level, you would be able to just all six of you would just be in one room blasting rockets into our mouth. Or
You know what's
it would
funny
be,
about that?
what's up?
Is they won't fix that, but they'll fix the fucking thing in Deepstone Crypt where you can glitch out of the map to kill a captain, to kill the boss.
Oh yeah, that one. I forgot about that one. Well, I mean,
There's
they.
apparently another version of that because they fucking fixed it in the launch patch for Lost.
Oh really? Oh, that's good to
Yeah, I
know.
don't know what it was, but apparently there was something because they included that in the patch notes.
No, that's funny. But I think the one thing is though, is that like the fact that half of the shit that you need to do can be ignored and still get the job done. Just I don't know if you can really say that as good planning or is like just nothing that they would be able to really do because the only thing that I can think of is tossing in and like adding in health gates. But even then, it's that people are gonna get pissy over that, like, oh, they're extended the fight, they added new stuff, blah blah blah. It's like, well, yeah, but I mean that was
I'm
the
fine with
intended
health
way.
gates and like raids. I'm not
Yeah.
fine with it in fucking
Strikes, yeah,
dungeons
strikes and
or
dungeons are
dungeons
annoying.
and strike.
Yeah, like I can understand if it is a time based gate, that's fine because yes, doing it where it's like, oh, you have a certain amount of time to do like a shit ton of damage. I'm fine with that because one, that's not preventing me from doing as much damage as I want. It's just, I need to do it in a very short time. Like if you look,
Also depends on if it's part of the fight or not, or like if
that's
it's
true.
done well. Like Shirochi, I think is a really well done gate.
Very much. Even though it is one of the longer ones, primarily because of
I
that.
think the difference though is that like even though Shirochi is long, it never feels like it.
It
And
doesn't.
that's because you're constantly on the move. You're never stopping. You're never ever stopping.
I
You're
mean,
just
you
moving
can't
and
stop.
moving and moving.
Like you can't stop, which is always a nice part
Yeah,
because it's like,
and that's why you just don't feel the gate on Shirochi is because you're just moving and moving and moving.
and also, the fact of the matter is that one, there's a way that you can essentially make it into like a much safer like area as well, like because to give you guys an idea, if you had like six fully geared guardians, You can literally have like 2 of them do damage, and then the rest will move on ahead, take care of any ads that spawn while, she teleports, and you're able to get there like much faster than anticipated if you guys are all just moving forward at the same time. And so there is ways that that can be sped up, especially in the way that they have it set up makes it so it's easier to speed that up rather than just like, oh yeah, we just need to like do like all the damage in one go. Now, I think the one thing that I wish they had done is in Last Wish is primarily based off of what was it? I think it was off of Callie. I think that honestly she should not be like able to take damage until you get to damage phase. I feel like that's something that they should do. Primarily because, again, that's something where it is like that is an exploit that Bungie has also said that is considered an exploit, and they have made changes to that. But, one thing to do is just like make her immune until damage phase enables. Because even if you do have damage phase, like, even if you're immune, it doesn't mean that, oh, you can't one phase her. Yeah, you can easily one phase her. It's not hard. If you have the right weapons, you have the right setup, you can get it done in 2 door cycles, possibly even 1 if you're able to get it like perfect. So it's just the fact of like you have that little like exploit people thing. Again, it's something that they have like fixed a little bit, but it's still there. That is a possibility of just ignoring an entire encounter. And I think that's like the only thing that I would ever make a change to that and putting gates on Riven, so that you would actually be able to utilize all the mechanics that are within that raid. Now, we can look at what is the other one? I mean, honestly, I think out of all of them, that's the only one that I'd say like has any main real changes. Scourge of the Past, I think the only thing that may have have broken it is actually something out of their control. Like they cannot control that. It's all based on ping. How the hell are you going to make it where like, oh,
well, there was something that you could argue was the fact that there was that part of the map where you could
like the ball duping stuff,
respawn yourself to get rid of the thing.
I mean that one maybe, but I mean it's still. I think the one thing is that they should leave that in there because the boss fight was such a very like interactive but a fairly easy boss fight to be able to one phase. It did bring a lot of low man challenges into the mix, and I think that part is a really nice aspect, and I think that's one thing that like should stay within it is like have that low man challenge, because I still like when everyone has like in the Destiny Reddit, when people have heard that I think it was I forget who it was. I wish I remember his name, but they were able to solo Atheon in D2. Everyone was like, holy fucking shit, this is something that like is possible. And there was 3 people who were actually working on it, and there's actually I think a video that Evan F 1997 made that goes into the whole like aspect of like why that was such an important thing. And I think that the fact that that is something that's attainable to that that top 0.001% is, it means a lot. Like it means like, okay, that is something that they can attain for. And removing that like those like certain aspects where you aren't able to, because I think that's one thing they did, that they removed the fact of if you do a finisher when you get teleported, you stay in the room. I think you still get teleported out into the different area that you're supposed to go into. That if I remember correctly, because of that, you can't solo or you can't low man Vault of Glass anymore, which does kind of suck. But, the fact of like the low man challenges and all that is always, for me, it's always an interesting thing to watch, because I always like seeing like, okay, we know how it works this way. What if we use more of a creative approach? And that's why I think like within Scourge of the Past, that whole like resetting aspect of it, I feel like is something that can be like, oh, maybe you want to get rid of it, but I think within the like the whole context of it, and going through those low man challenges, I think that's something that they would be able to kind of just like look away or avert their eyes for it. What was the term? Turn a blind eye to, because it's not, that's not breaking the entire fight. Like if you like, that aspect is only effective during low man encounters, rather than the full raid, because it's like, oh, here you go, like this is, you're still doing the same mechanics. It's just the only reason why that's there is, and that's benefit, is, oh, you don't have enough people to just cover your ass. And I think that's why for that, it's, that whole thing that I don't think that needs to be fixed. Although I think they did fix the ball duping stuff, which that's fine. I think that should have been fixed. So I have no issues with that one. But I think the one thing is that we've gone so close into the raids. I feel like we should actually talk about the season itself, because
Actually, there's one last thing I want to talk about, like in terms of raids, and it's the Witch Queen raid.
oh yeah, we should actually like
We've
how.
already been told the fact, and it's on the Bungie website. I am sad to hear this fact, because it means Savathun is most likely not the raid boss.
Yeah.
And here's what it says on the website. New raid. Among the swamps of Savathun's throne world lies a sunken pyramid. Alongside your fire team, venture inward and confront the ancient danger imprisoned within.
I would not be like, I think. Well, I mean, I think the one thing
Now,
is,
that means Savathun's whole story is going to most likely be wrapped up in the actual expansion story.
I
But I'm still excited for the raid
100%.
because I'm theorizing, and a lot of other people are theorizing, that when it says ancient, like this ancient entity is imprisoned,
Are we getting?
does that mean we're going to fight a worm god in a raid?
I mean, I'd be fucking down for that, dude. The last time we fought a fucking worm god was in a goddamn strike. That doesn't exist anymore.
And to be fair, it was the weakest worm god we fought.
But still, the fact of the matter, they put it down to a
I
fucking
know, it
strike.
was dumb. It was dumb. Both Nokris and Zol should have been raid bosses, but they weren't.
I still think that what they should have done is the final boss would be Nokris. Zol would be the raid boss. I would say that that would be a good way to wrap that whole thing up. But again, what we're talking about doesn't matter because it doesn't exist as of right now.
Yeah, at least they kind of redeemed Nokris a bit when they had us fight him in an Ascendant realm.
I think that was awesome. I actually thought that was a really fucking good fight. The way that
Hmm.
that was set up was perfect, especially because it does seem like something that would happen. That would be what he would do. And with the fact that we had that information, like, oh, Savathun is the one that kind of gave him that ability, because she knows, like, oh, this is what you can do. Here, let me help you to that. And
Yep.
there you go. Like, it's right there, and the way that they had that transition was really nice.
But I have to assume it's gotta be a worm god.
I would hope
Because
it's a worm god.
what kind of ancient danger could it be besides a worm god?
It could be
Unless you're telling me
the
that this is gonna be
architects.
our unless you're telling me that this is gonna be the first time we fight an actual darkness being.
Although the one thing is that I feel is definitely going to be the end of Savathun, is going to be in 2 years. In the 2 years? Yeah, 2 years.
You don't think we're gonna fight Savathun until the final shape?
Yep, and it's primarily because of what was actually said in the season of Lost. Because the way that she addresses herself is like, "Oh, I am Savathun." It was like, "I am the witch, like I'm the witch queen of something," and then it's like, "I am one of the shapes of." I wish I remembered the whole thing, but like the fact that they said like, "Oh, I'm one of the shapes," makes me think that, oh, it's either we're gonna be going back to, up against her one more time to really finalize the whole light and dark saga, because again, she is considered like the big bad person, like the primary, enemy for a significant time. I mean, granted, we had the darkness, but I think at that point, when we really look at it, the darkness is like a third party at this point. Like, they're there, they exist, yeah, they're kind of fucking shit up, but it's not the immediate concern. I mean, hell, half the time, they're helping us. Like, they provide us with the power of stasis. They allowed us to unlock stasis abilities. And I wouldn't be surprised if, if in the end we come to an agreement, like, you have the light and then you have the dark essentially saying like, all right, we understand that we need to not fight. The fact of this whole thing going through, we need to have this end, because now we're seeing, Savathun, however they're doing it, is going to come in and just be like, guess what? I have both. Because we already see that she has light, or she's able to simulate light in some aspect, either in her throne world or, in a hopefully we don't get to this part, possibly in reality, in like actual reality. And with that, it's just one of those things where it can really change the aspect of what the hell is going to happen next. Because right now, we're seeing the fact of, all right, we're having this tentative peace with the darkness, because right now, Ziva Arath is being a little shit, and Savathun's like, hey, by the way, she's coming and kicking my ass. Can you help innocent hive witch queen who is going to likely backstab you later on? Huh? And so you have that whole back and forth like right now. And again,
I've had this kind of theory. I don't know if I necessarily agree with the idea that Savathun will survive Witch Queen, but I've had this theory that, like, ever since they announced that the title was the final shape, that the final shape was going to conclude with the Traveler and the Darkness becoming kind of like one.
I mean, I can definitely see that. Like, that's what I'm kind of thinking would happen.
Thus, in a way, ending the whole light-dark thing, because then light and darkness would become one.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they'd actually do that. We would have to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like a huge thing where it, may work, it may not. But again, it's just going off of the basis of, is this going to have like a huge impact? We do not know. And it's, I'm very hyped about it, because one, I could fucking finally put down this game, possibly. Because who knows, maybe what will happen is like, oh, they ended it off. Yeah, it's like, yeah, that's the end of the Destiny series. We're just gonna rename it into a different IP. I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, this is going to be end of like them calling it Destiny, and then
no, it's the end of the light and dark.
That's true.
Saga, not the end of them calling it Destiny.
I really wonder where they can go from there. I really wonder. Because
one thing they could do is like us reclaiming of other worlds that have been lost.
Yes, and then we'll need to have the minimum requirement of 250 gigabytes again. Fuck yeah!
Yeah, basically.
It's always a fun time. Always a fun time when that happens, you know? And I think the one thing is that, you know, we still don't know. We still don't know. Because right now we're just looking at this and it's essentially, you know, looking right now at the season of Lost. Essentially it is Savathun has Osiris hostage. And ever since the, you know, Beyond Light occurred, it's not been Osiris we've been dealing with, it's been Savathun. And I think everyone kind of fucking expected that. I know that people are thinking like, oh, this is like, you know, Osiris is being like held or something. And it's like, both sides are right here. It's just that not in the way that you expected. Because yes, we are talking to Savathun, but, you know, Osiris is still being held captive by her. And, like, that's the whole thing. And so, you know, we have that whole...
Do you know how much it must suck for,
Saint?
Saladin? I mean, obviously Saint, but for Saladin? Because remember, last season in Splicer, Saladin had a conversation with Osiris in the lore.
Oh, yeah.
Where he called Osiris a true friend.
I think the one thing is, though, is that, what was I gonna say? I fucking forgot what I was about to say. Shit. I think it was the fact that, like, Saladin still kind of had that thought process. And if it was actually Osiris, I feel like it would still be, like, the same thing. But it still is the... And I don't know if Saladin knows. Does Saladin know?
Because everyone knows, I think.
I
think everyone in the everyone important knows. I think the only people who don't know is the public.
Like, I know that, like, you know, the Vanguard knows, you know, the Helm knows, but I don't know if, like does it explicitly say that, like, Saladin knows? Because that's the one thing that, like, you know, because he's not there all the time, you know, like, he shows up for Iron Banner, but I doubt it's going to, you know, if it's going to be something that is going to be, like, there. I mean, hell, fucking Saladin does his own shit, and the only reason why that's happening is because Lord Shaxx is just like, you know what, I'm not gonna deal with their bullshit. Go, just deal with, like, do your own thing. Just do not piss me off. That's it. Like, literally, that's just the whole thing of that. And so I wouldn't be surprised if he isn't even, like, linked in with the rest of the group in terms of the information. Also, I just realized something. If they fucking put Savathun's song in anything of the Witch Queen's stuff, or there's going to be, like, the final mission and you just hear Savathun's song, I'm just like, motherfucker. Because it's like, we've heard it ever since year one. Ever since Vanilla. It's always popped up. If I remember correctly, it popped up, you know, when it first came in with Savathun's song, the actual strike. And then I think it popped up once again in year 2. If you were standing near Shaxx, you actually can hear like him humming it. And then in year 3, they brought that up multiple times. Once was, you know, during the what was the sidearm called again? I forget what it was. It was like the one where it turns into essentially like a beam of light.
The Devil's Ruin?
Yep. The Devil's Ruin, like, they bring it up that way, even though it's not exclusively Savathûn's song, it still goes off the tune. And then they also did it in the dungeon as well, if it wasn't, not shown up, but if it hasn't been removed, because, collectibles always disappear on the fucking prophecy dungeon. But essentially it was the fact of, you hear Eris talk. Was it Eris? Yeah, I think it was Eris. It was Eris talking to the Drifter.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially it was like, hey, by the way, like, does this tune follow this? And it's essentially Savathûn's tune, like Savathûn's
That
song.
was not what was said.
Well, I forget what it was, but it was.
Jack told me you sung him a little diddle.
That was it. Yeah. It was something based around, like, someone.
No, because Drifter was like, Jack told me you sung him a little diddle, and he sung it for her.
Like,
Or well, not he didn't sing it for her, but she was like, did it go something like this? And then she hums the theme, and she talks about how it's Savathûn's song.
I don't know if she explicitly says it. It's just like, I think he might.
He does say it's explicitly Savathûn's song.
Oh, man, it's been such a long time, and I don't think, like, that. I've only gotten that once. It's just weird. Just, like, the amount of, like, this is what I fucking love about Bungie, is they do this shit. They make it where it's like, oh, everything is just, like, all interconnected. Like, hey, by the way, remember that fucking strike that had that sound in the background? Guess fucking what? He's gonna persist for the rest of the time. Because setup. And then, the whole lore of Sig 14.
It's crazy to think how much setup Savathûn has had compared to every single villain. Like, the darkness we've kind of always been aware of. We've never really seen them until Beyond Light and Arrivals. We've never really had any, like, huge build-up towards them other than, oh, the Black Doritos are coming, guys. The Black Doritos are coming.
I mean, through Rasputin's, it was actually puffed Doritos. But besides the point, the one thing is that I feel like the darkness wasn't a big enough, like, reason to give a shit about it. Because again,
I think the reality is that, like, the darkness is still building up to something.
Oh, 100%.
And the reason is because they're trying to,
I believe, Lightfall
convince us that we're on their side, or that they're on our side. And I don't know what the game plan is here. I don't know if they're trying to turn us against the Traveler to, like, destroy the Traveler, or what exactly is going on.
See, the way that I'm thinking of it, and the way that I'm seeing this, is that it's yin and yang, right? You have the darkness. What was it? I forget what they're called, like, the actual names of it. So we're just gonna call them, like, the Traveler, like, the light and dark. And so, like, you have both sides. Like, both are essentially the same, like, two sides of the same coin. Because in the end, those powers are given to you, whether it is through the method of, trials of the shards for stasis, or, you go through the methods of inspiration through the light. If people remember that fucking storyline aspect, but it's still the fact of, you still learn this. It's up to you on what you do with it. Now, for us, as Guardians, we're there to defend humanity. We're there to defend, the remaining last city in, on Earth, as well as any, survivor groups or anything of that sort throughout the solar system, because, we haven't gone anywhere further than that. Now, in the end, we saw this as like, oh, it's dark versus light, but I feel like the one thing is that because of the fact that we've been so used to the light, it's the fact that the darkness just recently came in. There's that whole like, oh, I don't know if we should be using this. Oh, I think they might be manipulating us. Because, again, it's, when you really look at it, like the aspects of it, they do have a valid, reason to actually be like, hey, we're on your side. Like, we don't want to, like, destroy you. It's just, like, because of the fact that the light has given us so much. I mean, hell, they're the one that initiated our golden age. And then the darkness came in, and then, everything kind of happened. But even then, it wasn't the darkness. Like, it wasn't the flying Doritos. It was just like, everything that the light attracts, the shadows would come in. And that kind of, threw everything out of whack and all that stuff. And so, I think in that case, it's not the fact of, like, oh, the darkness wants to defeat the traveler wants to defeat the darkness. It's more of, they're at odds with each other, but regardless of what it is, it still goes down to the conduit itself. What that conduit is going to do with that information, like with that power, with that ability. And I feel like we're going to get more information on that during Lightfall, because I feel like that is when it's really going to climax between the light and the dark, especially since it's called Lightfall. And, then we're going to see, like, okay, what was the ulterior motive? What was the exact thing? Because right now, it's still the fact of, we don't know if we can trust them, but they haven't done anything directly to us that negatively affected us, so to speak. Again, so to speak, they could be, the cause for multiple different things throughout the solar system. It's just that they're not directly involved with it. It's always been a different faction of it, because the darkness showed up and Aramis used stasis against us. The House of Salvation went against us. It wasn't the darkness saying like, oh yeah, here you go, we're gonna send these people after you. It's essentially them saying, no, we're gonna take back what's ours, and we have this power that we received. And so, we have that whole kind of dynamic where it's just the conduits itself, but to really get that kind of that climax, we're gonna see that next year after Witch Queen.
I feel like we have to see, because I feel like Witch Queen has to be the end of the Savathun series. I feel like it has to be, because it doesn't make sense to call it the Witch Queen and not kill her off. I mean, we know someone's gonna die, because they reissued the fucking
spoiler alert. Yeah, I know.
And they only issued, the last time that was issued was before Forsaken.
Yep, was fucking Warmind. Oh god.
Someone's gonna die. Now, that most likely means the good guy is gonna die, because last time
I really hope it was issued,
Kate died.
I really hope.
My theory is it's not Osiris, but Eris, because who is the one obsessed with Savathun?
That's exactly what I'm thinking as well. Because the interesting part is that, like, Cade died because of the convicts that he put in. I wouldn't be surprised if Curiosity kills the cat on this one as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I wouldn't be surprised if she dies. I mean, as much as, like, she was, like, a really cool, character, like, outside of the fact of being the last one to leave the, the raid. What is the raid even called, if I remember correctly? Because we always call it, like, oh, it's, Crota's End or something?
That's literally the raid name.
Yeah, okay.
Crota's End.
Yeah, like, going into there. But what's the actual, like, not the raid, but the location itself?
Like, the Hellmouth?
Ah, there we go. Yeah, the Hellmouth. Like, her being, like, the last one. But it's like, we don't see, like, I honestly want to see a little, like, hopefully we'll see, like, kind of what leads up. Like, how we saw, in Warmind, we saw that, oh, Cade left, for the last 2 weeks of Warmind. Before Forsaken. Like, that was, like, the whole thing where it's like, oh, if you go up to it, I think there was, like, a location that you would actually be able to read or scan, where essentially it's like, oh, wow, Cade's not here, but there's a note here. It's saying, like, oh, hey, I'm going to be going to, like, oh, wait, was it even, I think it was actually a Bungie post. It was a Bungie post. I forget what it was. Well, like, regardless of how the medium was sent, but essentially it was like, hey, by the way, I'm not going to be in the tower. I'm going to have to go take care of some problem with PV. I'll be back. I'll let you know if I need any help. Now holler out to you. Again, that's like the TLDR type deal. But that was like, you didn't see him in the tower, and then the actions of Forsaken occurs, and bada bing, bada boom, the most like character at the time, unfortunately, was blasted by the past life of the current favorite character of mine. It's kind of weird, because it's always hunters. It's always the fucking hunter. Well, technically, we don't even know if we can really call Crow a hunter. He's a light bearer, but he's not a guardian. You know? Because, again, the Drifter himself, he's also a light bearer. A light bearer. But it's like, we can't call him a guardian. We can't call him a hunter, even though he is a gunslinger. Which is kind of interesting to think about, because he wears robes.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, I would, if a hunter, like hunter ornaments, gave us robes, you bet your sweet ass I'm gonna be fucking wearing that shit. And
I've never been so creeped out by a Destiny cutscene as I did when Season of the Lost dropped and Osiris. And they were like,
I'll hold you to that.
Say it was like, everything can still be forgiven, and he was like, I'll hold you to that. He not only talks with Osiris' voice, but with Southern's voice, while like raising the eyebrows in such a weird fucking way.
The shittiest part is that I wish I had my fucking recorded, because here's the issue. When it crashed, right?
Yeah.
When I told you? When I tried to record that part, the fucking footage got corrupted. So I had nothing there.
The MKV file got corrupted?
So this was through Shadowplay. Because honestly, I've actually seen Shadowplay actually records it at a better frame rate than OBS.
Is that what you're uploading with?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I like that, because your Call of Duty videos look like complete and utter trash. Then,
I mean, the issue is that it looks the same through OBS as well. Unfortunately, and I think it's primarily because of the graphics itself of the my settings is also a main contender, because it's so unoptimized that in Modern Warfare I can run everything on Ultra and still get 90 frames, no problem. In this, I have to run everything on the lowest quality possible to be able to actually get 75 frames. And so I wouldn't be surprised if it looks like shit that way because of that. But what I'm very happy about is we get Marisov back. It's going to be great. Because then it's essentially going to be like Marisov's like, my long lost brother. Crow's like, do I know you? You seem familiar.
They've already had that interaction in the season, apparently. We just haven't gotten that dialogue.
Oh.
The dialogue exists in-game, and you can get it right now. You just have to play the activity again.
Yeah.
Until you get it.
There was also the cutscene too. It's like, that like you had as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so you had that whole thing going through, right?
Yeah.
And so the whole the whole basis of that is going for that. So the only thing that I would say is like I can't wait to kind of see more
You're
of that.
lagging.
Uh, am I? I do apologize for that. Uh, but the one thing would be is that I can't wait to see the developments between between them, because I think that's going to be such a very interesting like interaction every single time, like if they ever talk to each other. Primarily because of the fact of, they both have two different perspectives. And like, Crow is kind of remembering, like it seems familiar type deal, but he's not like explicitly like, "Oh yeah, I know you." And then
I
you
don't
have
think it's physically possible for someone to remember, because I think at this point Anna Bray would have remembered, yet she still has no memories. Everything she knows from researching stuff.
I mean, yeah, true. But I think the one thing is that, but it's the fact that the familiarity part is that showing up, you know? Like, oh, it's like, you seem familiar, like have we met? Like, do I know, like, do I know you? And it could just because of like, Marasov giving her like the "you're back," vibe. And then everyone else is like, "you're back" vibe. In the
Yeah, I
worst
mean,
way, in the worst way possible.
She literally calls Crow darling
I know.
in the
And he's like,
dialogue.
what did you call me?
And Petra is very clearly still frustrated.
I mean, obviously Petra's gonna be frustrated. Because one, like, the last time, she saw that face, it was at the end of a gun barrel. Two of them, actually. So, you have that whole thing going on, and it's just like, okay, relax. Like, I get it, 100%. I understand. Trust me, this guy has gone through that much shit as well. But, and that also is something that I kind of wish we get some more information on as well. Because I do want to see, like, how they also interact. Especially because, this is coming up from, the fact of Petra is like, this dude just killed, Cade 6. And or Guardian, like, killed him. And so, like, that whole, like, aspect of it, like, does she come to the realization, like, will she come to that whole, like, all right, like, expecting of it, like, okay, like, I'm gonna, accept it, move forward, or, like, process through that? Or is she still gonna hold that thing where it's like, you should be dead, like, I don't know why you're here, I will still, like, not forgive you for killing Cade? And so,
It's a complicated mess, right? Because it's
oh
not
yeah,
even he's not Aldrin anymore, but it's like
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, you know, there is that whole thing where it's like,
Crow still has to hide his face from the public.
I mean, that was the one thing is that, regardless of like how he brings him out to be, like, I love Crow like a lot, especially because he's essentially like the whole, like, I wouldn't say the novice, but kind of like, you know how you have like the veteran, and then you have like the apprentice. He's essentially
Uh-huh.
the apprentice version of Cade. Like the comments that he makes, the way that he talks is like, man, I'm glad that you're I wouldn't say guardian. Does he even refer to himself as a guardian?
Don't think so, no.
Like, as a light bearer, it feels like he has that vibe, growing, just like Cade Six had. That's kind of why he became, he's starting to become one of my favorites, if not my favorite, outside of Mara, obviously, but that's besides the point. But I think the one thing is that this is definitely going to be where possibly we'll see the whole the whole thing shift for Crow, and the way that possibly also the whole thing shifting for essentially everyone within like the whole Awoken. I wouldn't say hierarchy because it doesn't make sense in this case because there's only like a queen, her wrath, and then the Techians, and then we don't really have any other like hierarchical order in regards to the whole thing. So you had that whole thing going on, and so we'll have to see like what will happen with that. But I think a good way to really kind of go through this is that because we're talking about like the whole thing about preorders, um, you know, going back to the whole thing for it, in my opinion, again, my personal opinion, and this is also coming from somebody who has dunked on average 900 hours per year, like per content year in Destiny, and that's just based off of the hours that I have on Steam. If I add in the hours from, pre Shadowkeep, that would definitely increase greatly. But the way that they have it, like, the whole thing set up for their pre-orders, is always, I think it's a good thing, And the reason why I say that is because it also, there was a certain pre-order that you actually showed me that made no fucking sense and actually kind of pissed me off a little bit.
Okay,
And
so I mean, I'm struggling to find it though because like I can't tell if Reddit's just memeing or if it's an actual thing from EB Games.
I
So I think
really,
it's an EB Games specific thing.
I really hope that they're memeing. And just so to give you some context on what exactly was going on. So Saf a little bit ago showed us that there was a pre-order bundle of the collector's edition. Now, people have been saying like this is like a EB exclusive pre-order deal, but essentially it came with 5 things. It came with the game Halo Infinite. It came with a steel book. It came with a $15 Xbox gift card, an enamel pin, and an exclusive DLC of armor coating, weapon coating, emblem, and nameplate. And you can already see why I'm annoyed at this greatly, because again, what they're showing us is like based off of like if you're buying it for the Xbox, Xbox One, Xbox Series S or X, depending on what you're going to be gaming it on. And it's just like, why the fuck are you adding in a goddamn $15 Xbox gift card? It doesn't make sense to me. It.
It's probably just like some kind of thing that EB Games is doing. I don't know.
I mean, now granted, the one.
I mean, there's a lot of reasons for me to be frustrated with Infinite right now.
Uh,
And if it's an EB Games exclusive thing, I don't really care.
I mean, for me, this is kind of just wants me to get started off on a rant of just like on like stupid pre-order deals, because I just don't like half the time I don't understand like pre-order deals. Like, oh, if you pre-order from here, you get like this stuff, or pre-order there. It's like, yeah, I understand that it's like to motivate sales, to motivate like current current sales, just so that when the game releases, they would be able to say like, okay, we have like sold this amount, like a shit ton more
I think
than and set up. But when you hear fucking deals like this, and again, I'm still thinking that this is like a whole like a meme, but it's still the fact of, you know, the whole aspect of it just being, okay, we're going to toss in money for buying it. And not only that, but also call it a collector's edition when you get a book, in-game, you know, skins and cosmetics, and a fucking pin on top of the game. Which, by the way, for Halo Infinite, is the campaign, which is also in a worse spot. Not going to be coming out with co-op or Forge on launch. And then what else was not coming out as well with it? I forget.
Oh no fucking way. Oh no fucking way.
Oh no. There's some more. We got more issues
Oh,
here.
they're doing this bullshit again. Are you fucking serious? 343 and Microsoft. You're fucking doing pre-order exclusives for doors.
I'm sorry.
GameStop has an exclusive skin
Yep.
and emblem.
Yep. That's what I fucking thought. And now, I like the whole thing about that. And here's where the ranting comes in. If you want to pre-order, fine. My personal opinion, unless you know that you're going to fucking play the shit out of it, do not pre-order.
I'm just so tired of it, right? Here's the thing, right? Infinite, you don't even need to buy. If you're only interested in the multiplayer, you don't need to pre-order anything because the multiplayer is fucking free for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Like, if anything, I know I'm going to buy it, but that's because I want to go through the campaign. I've always liked Halo's campaign.
I'm frustrated, though, because I wanted to do co-op on Infinite campaign.
Yeah! I wanted to as well! I was going to be
And
like,
yet,
yo, let's
co-op's
go
not
do
going to
it.
come to the game until 3 months later. Forge is not going to come to the game until 6 months later. Assassinations are not going to be in the game until however many months later.
I do apologize that he's robotic on my end. Sorry about
You're
that.
robotic on my end, too.
Huh, that's
I think I don't know if it's if it's us or if it's Discord. It might be Discord if it's happening on both of our ends at the same time.
It's likely Discord. But, yeah, continue, T-Pain.
It's just... What the fuck were we gonna get last year? This game was supposed to release last year, mind you. Holiday last year. And yet, look at it now. You're telling me that co-op's not ready to launch, even though you've delayed it an entire year? Forge isn't ready to launch? Assassinations aren't ready to launch?
So, and here's the kicker. Here's a really, really interesting point as well to point down. So, back when, you know, Halo 5 came out, they actually brought out something also that I don't think was very publicly provided, but there was actually a Forge option for PC. Now, granted, you didn't have the campaign. Like, it was strictly Forge and Forge maps. But it was still the fact that they had that set up solely for multiplayer in Forge for PC. And so the fact of the matter that they have something set up like that exclusively for PC, and they aren't launching Forge or even co-op, I really want to know what the fuck.
Let's talk about the fact
on?
that Halo 5 still hasn't even gotten ported to PC properly. There's no campaign or multiplayer from Halo 5. The only thing that's on PC is the Forge.
I mean, yeah, the Forge is fun, but again, it's Forge. Not like, you know, you don't have official maps, you don't have I mean,
How is
hell,
it that like years later, Halo Infinite's finally gonna come out this year on PC and Xbox, and Halo 5 is the only game that hasn't been ported over.
I think, yeah,
Oh,
honest.
and by the way, Halo MCC is still missing console map.
That's true.
How are we this far into the MCC existing on both PC and console? Halo Infinite's about to release in just a few months. There's still maps missing from MCC. Halo 5's not even on PC properly, and Infinite's going to be missing features. How many times do we need to go through this cycle 343 till you learn your fucking lesson? Was it not enough that you falsely advertised Halo 5?
Uh-huh. Like, for fuck's sakes, like, honestly, it's just like, how the like, this is kind of why I did not have high hopes for Halo ever since Reach. Like, I'll admit, Halo 4, the storyline was very good, and that's honestly all that I can really say about it.
Here's the thing, right? Halo 4 I really liked. I really liked the campaign. Didn't like the multiplayer at all. But I was still excited for Halo 5 because of the fact that they announced the Blue Team and like all this other stuff from the lore was coming into the main story. I was like, okay, cool. That's gonna be really awesome to play. And then it wasn't. Because
Yeah.
they don't introduce Blue Team properly. They don't make you interested in Spartan Locke or any of the other team. The only one you're interested on Spartan Locke's team is fucking Buck, and that's because you probably played ODST and loved him in that.
And also the fact of, you know, they haven't, what's it called? They haven't done, like, they literally had set up Buck from ODST to be played by one of the most beloved, like, voice actors, you know, as well. Like, initially, like, in Halo 3 ODST, the initial person that they had it was for Nathan Fillion. And, you know, also the fact of the matter is, like, we all, like, through that, like, just the whole, like, you know, the image of Nathan Fillion, and the way that he shows himself, the way that he is, outside, like, you know, if you did not play Halo 3 ODST at all, just off of the fact of the way they interact and the way that Buck interacts with the group itself, I wouldn't be surprised if you liked him out of anyone else. You gave a shit about him more than anyone else. Even if you haven't played Halo 3 ODST. All the other characters were just, this is like one dimension. The only person who, if I remember correctly, ever said anything about the fact that they are going to hunt down Master Chief was Buck. I was the only person. Because if I remember correctly, they even had it in the goddamn trailer too. It's like, you realize what we're going to be doing is going to have so many people turn on us. Or hate us.
Here's the thing about that line, right? I fucking hate that line. I fucking hate it. And it's not because of the fact that, like, but not because of the fact that it's a bad line. It's a good line. It makes sense. There's no payoff on that. No one turns against them. No one cares. It doesn't even make sense in the context, considering literally, according to logic, Chief has fucking gone off mission and gone against them. Logically, it may suck, but there's no fallout from it. No one turns on them. There's nothing. No payoff from that line. It's a pointless line for a fucking trailer.
I know. And again, like, when they said that, I'm like, yo, what if that does actually play? It doesn't. It does not. It's just there. Just there. Like, here you are. There you go.
See, that line, when I heard it in the gameplay trailer, I was like, oh shit, is the Hunt the Truth stuff actually gonna pay off really well? And then the Hunt the Truth shit turned out to be fucking bullshit.
I know. I hated that. Like, I still, you know, I'll always I like the one thing like that was set up was really
I
nice,
was so
but
fucking excited
it
with the
was set
Hunter
up for
Truth stuff,
disappointment.
especially when they showed the two trailers for us to figure out which one is true. Or it has Spartan Locke,
Yeah, down
like
on the
the live
ground.
action trailer, because you had the two ones where Spartan Locke was down on the ground and
Hmm.
Master Chief was approaching him, and one where Master Chief was down on the ground and Locke was approaching him.
Yeah,
You
and
had two versions of that trailer, and we never knew which one was going to be real. Had nothing to do with the fucking game.
it's
The
just there.
marketing for Halo 5 was god tier because they got me really fucking excited. The
Same,
fucking campaign was garbage.
same. One thing that I would always recommend is watch. So there is a content creator that goes by the name of Racefic, and he actually did a video of years later on many different glades, including Halo 5's Guardian. And what he says in there is, I would say, is like I 100% agree with with majority, if not all of it, because the way that he explains everything, where essentially it's just like you're just plopped in, and then exposition is just given you in the most bulky way possible. It's like it's so true because essentially like when you go to the outpost, right? That's run by Governor AI. You don't get like a cutscene or anything of that sort. You're just like, all right, here you go, boom, and then here's all here's all the exposition. Like what, bro? What is this coming from? Like, why am I getting this now? Why couldn't you make it more interesting? Not just, oh yeah, here you go. By the way, here's this information. Because like,
They really want you to think that the Halo universe is big without like actually making it seem big.
no, because here's the issue, is that the Halo universe was considered big. We thought it was big when Bungie was writing it. Because, you know, we heard, like, you know, you had, like, the whole thing about Reach, right? And, like, the story, like, the infamy of Reach, the you know, the chaos of, like, you know, because Reach fell, that's what set everything in motion. You know, that's when, like, that's how we found the Halo rings. That's how we found, you know, that's how we defended them off from Earth. And it shows, like, on a grand scale, because it's not like, oh, we're finding, like, one small area and teleporting. It's the one mission that I will always refer to when it comes to this is the Saber mission. I forget exactly what it's called. Fuck. What was it called? Um shit. But the whole thing is that essentially it was the basis of, all right, you have to gulp into space. And oh, tip of the spear. Tip of the spear. That's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Tip of the Spear was, in my opinion, one of the best missions that displays the dynamics of how big it is. Because in one mission, you were on the ground. You were then in space. You were then on a fallen cruiser. And then you literally fall back to Reach. In the span of a fucking hour. Granted, I did this on Legendary, and it took me an hour to get through it. But that's besides the point of my skill. I was like, 12 or 13 when it came out. But it's still the fact of, like, you have this so huge dynamic of going through from one place to another place to another place. And ending off, like, coming back, like, oh, you did a full circle, but it's a fucking huge-ass circle. Meanwhile, in the fucking area, oh, you go to one place, come back. It kill shit on the way. Great.
I'm tired of the bullshit from Halo. because 343 can't seem to get a fucking grip on what they're doing. And with the fact that Halo Infinite is launching without core features, I just... so tired. I'm so tired of it.
It's just...
I'm so tired of the bullshit from 343. I'm tired of people defending 343 as if they haven't been pulling bullshit since they started making the games.
As soon as Bungie moved away from Halo to work on Destiny, I was kind of concerned. When Halo 4 came out, I thought, okay, this can go somewhere. Then Halo 5 came out, and then I stopped giving a fuck. I still enjoy the lore of Halo. Like, I love the lore of Halo. Like, hell, I still remember going, over the weekends while I was in college, while I was, waiting for friends to get online, or while I was waiting for for something to download, or while I was working on homework, I actually had, a playlist. I forget who it was from, but essentially it was going through each of the main aspects of the Halo lore. And again, this was before Destiny's lore actually, became more pronounced for me. And I would listen to it for hours. I would be able to work on stuff and still have that in the background, and just seeing it and understanding it. Granted, I think that also is a catalyst of why I moved over to Destiny, was because Bungie was like, "Oh yeah, we're making Destiny," and that's how I moved over. But the listening to the videos of people explain about the whole the forerunners and humans, the original humans, and then also the whole thing about the hive, you have mendicant bias going against the whole thing, and just everything about it was just so good. And then you come to this where 343 it takes up. It starts off great, and then nothing else. It doesn't. You don't feel fulfilled. You feel you feel disappointed. You feel like, all right, this is a fucking joke at this point. They don't care. There's no effort in it. There's nothing for it. I still remember that for Halo 4, they came out with a Forward Unto Dawn, which in the beginning was a mini series that they had on Machinima before they turned it into a movie that they sold out, and also I think something that you were able to watch on Netflix for a little bit. I'm not sure if it's still there or not, but it goes through and you're able to see kind of how eventually one of the main people within the storyline actually is how they were connected to Master Chief, why they they believe in him. And it was essentially he's the reason, the sole reason why they're alive. And you see that as well, because he's the one that essentially is oh, by the way, if you left, we had this fully armed Pelican to come chase after you. I wonder what happened to it. And then you see that kind of, that evolve as well. We got fucking nothing for fucking Halo 5. I'm pissed. Not only that, fucking Halo Infinite, with the amount of fucking features that are not there, I don't know. It's likely I'm going to be going over to Battlefield, because it's sure as hell I'm not going to COD. I'm not doing COD, especially with with them going back to World War II. And the last time they went to World War II, it was in my opinion not a fun time. And so it's just
it's Infinity Ward this time, right? Or is it Sledgehammer?
It's Sledgehammer.
Ah.
Also, one of the main reasons why I'm not touching this one either.
The only reason I would be because of zombies, but like unless they have a sale, I'm not gonna do it.
Oh, 100%. Because
The only reason I'm interested in zombies is because I know it's Treyarch, and that's a whole other issue. Because now it's like, is Treyarch going to make zombies for both their own games and Sledgehammer? Are they going to be making it for like all of them, or is Treyarch being relegated to zombies only instead of their own game?
I really fucking hope not. I really fucking hope not. Like, as much
Because
as
what is the logic behind having Treyarch work on zombies for a title that's not their own?
There isn't. There really isn't.
Because that's exactly what's happening here. Vanguard Zombies is Treyarch. It's stated explicitly on the store page. It's Treyarch.
My main issue is the fact that essentially it's, if Treyarch gets relegated to zombies only, I'm never touching COD for a long time. Because as much
I think
as
it depends on what Infinity Ward does. Also, I'm
granted.
confused. Why is Sledgehammer making a game again? Because I thought they were relegated to helping instead of making their own games.
They were relegated to fucking ports, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I thought they were like switched to be a side company instead of a main. Because like their games just weren't doing well.
Oh, I now see what happened. So the reason is that they actually had expanded from 2019 to now.
Okay.
Yep. And so they initially, because what was happening was that it was supposed to be between Raven Software and Sledgehammer. But because of the fact that they had two different conflicting ideas, Activision was like, all right, Treyarch is going to take over from here. And so that's why, like, that, you know, when you heard the whole thing was rewritten, likely was because of that.
Mm.
And so from there, it moved out, like, and then over time, you know, Sledgehammer did open, apparently they opened up a couple of, like, locations. They opened up a location in Melbourne, Australia. They also have one opened in Toronto, Canada. And so, like, as of right now, 450 people are now working, rather than, you know, well, what was the initial amount? It was like 100 something, if I remember correctly. Let me see here. Yep, with so you know, before May 2020, it was like less than 200 people. So they more than doubled in size in terms of their manpower. But I still think the one thing is that I am not going to touch this at all. Only reason why I would ever think about it is zombies, or my cousins decide to get it for me for a birthday gift for some weird reason. That's it. Because for me, and even then, I likely will not play it unless it helps in Warzone. And even then, I'm not gonna touch it because it's Warzone. Apparently, you have to, like, I don't understand why fucking people don't fucking put goddamn anti-cheat on their games initially. Like, for example, Destiny 2. We now have BattleEye, which is good. And very, very good. Especially because now it kind of shows, like, alright, we're done fucking around. You know, we've done the lawsuit type deals, but let's actually focus down on the game itself. And so, you know, the fact that they brought it in. And then Warzone, which is a Call of Duty game, which is led by Activision Blizzard. a multi-billion-dollar fucking company. And they have not enabled a goddamn anti-cheat for it. Why? How is I don't know like the net value, like the value of Bungie. It's definitely nowhere close to what's it called? Let me see here. Cuz if we look at it, it's like, yeah, so to give you an idea, it's around 375 million. And this is as of 2019. Whether that has gone up or not, we don't know. But, it's still a significant amount. Right? But they're not big. They're not as big as Activision, which literally makes, like, that in a quarter. Like, they make the value of Bungie in a quarter. And so the fact of, it's taking them that long to apply an anti-cheat on literally one of the most popular games played, with cross-play enabled as well, it just boggles my mind. It fucking boggles it. How is this such a huge company like you cheaping out on something that literally everyone's been asking for? It's just like, what the fuck?
It's wild.
Yeah. And, speaking of Activision, normally we don't go into, like, anything, like, outside of that, but this part I did want to kind of talk about to really show you how fucking stupid and how fucking shitty Activision is. Now, if you guys don't know, there right now is a current lawsuit investigation into misconduct that occurred over in, I think, the Activision division of the
Blizzard division.
Oh, the Blizzard division. Okay, yeah. So
I think some of the people from Activision are involved. I'm not 100% sure on that. Don't quote me on that.
Regardless,
I would need to look more into it again because I don't quite remember.
I mean, long story short,
but most of it is the Blizzard side, including people who have been there since before the merger.
Yeah, so it's like, again, like you have Blizzard employees, all that, and apparently there has been documentation that's shown that they have received orders to shred documentation that has been requested by the legal counsel of I think the state of California. And they're not only doing that, they're also encouraging employees to go to private lawyers or I forget what the exact phrase of it. So don't quote me on this as truth, but they're keeping everything internal so that if they ever request any of that information, Activision Blizzard is able to say, like, oh, because this was in-house, this is all confidential. This is all stuff that we would not be able to provide due to confidentiality that we have. And not only that, they're also putting in NDAs. They're also doing capturing kills, essentially, like, you know how it is. But essentially, it's a fucking shit show. It's a fucking shit show. And the fact of the matter is that, like, it's terrible. And not only that, we also have, World of Warcraft essentially, like, fucking over its players, too. Which is just, like, hilarious. Because I'm like, bro, you are literally just screwing over your main fucking source of income. Like, goddamn, dude.
Yeah, speaking of World of Warcraft, they released some. I don't know. I don't quite know everything, but they released some stuff, and I think I don't know if the patch was released or whatever they're doing, but they basically said that they're gonna do what the community wanted, but like at the same time, apparently, and this is why I'm not going to talk too much about it, because I didn't really look into it all that much. Apparently, they're making all the changes that the community has asked for and has been asking for since the fucking alpha of Shadowlands. Apparently, the fucking devs just refused to listen to the player base until over half the player base had started leaving.
Hey, shout out to Asmund
It
Gold for
should
fucking
not
initiating that.
take. It should not take that much of a loss of your fucking player base on top of getting a fucking lawsuit to make these changes.
But I think the fucking best part about this is that Overwatch, the devs at Overwatch, were like, in solidarity, we're gonna change McCree's name. Like, I appreciate that. Like, cool. That's a fucking drop in the goddamn ocean, bro. There is no...
Yeah, it really just, in the end, like, that's just such a minor thing that...
Like, again, we, like... I'll always go back to Bungie for this, because Bungie is like, they have shown time and time again that they always support their community. They always will support their player base. They'll always support, the people that make Destiny. Like, you see them, like, they've, like, they have, like, BLM stuff. Like, they show pictures of them going to these, Black Lives Matter, showing off, like, yes, we are, they're pro LGBT plus, and they're showing that it's like, yeah, we understand, like, you guys essentially create this, so, like, we have nothing against you guys. Honestly, we support it. We are happy about it. We embrace it. We are you. like the way that they do it is just, it's good. And then when something bad comes out, they're just like, if it is something huge, they'll take responsibility for it. Eventually. But they at least take responsibility for it. The fact of, the whole thing of, like, oh, cheating's so rampant. Eventually they took upon themselves to do it. So they had, like, they put in the joint lawsuits against, like, cheating, like, hack hosting sites, and like, all that stuff. Meanwhile, we look over to Activision Blizzard. And I also brought something up from Axios. This is from Axios's article on this. And this is from an article back in, earlier this week on August 24th. And it's like them talking about how California is expanding the lawsuit against Activision Blizzard. And so what they have done is that the DFEH, which I don't exactly remember what that means. I don't think they actually explain. Yeah, the Department of Fair Employment and Housing, which is the actual department in California that is initiating this this lawsuit, is alleging that, like, it's interfered with with Activision's has interfered with its investigation, and they have and these are allegations. All of these are allegations. Once again, they're saying that Activision Blizzard has stymied its efforts through, like I said before, NDAs requiring employees to speak with the company ahead of contacting the department, and the involvement with a specific law firm that Blizzard hired, so that it does, like, so again, it's all confidential. It's all in-house.
Yeah.
And so because of that, they're expanding that lawsuit to essentially say, like, we're trying to fucking do our job. These guys are purposely fucking us over. Like, the fact of the matter that you essentially have to, to keep everything in-house. And not only that, on top of that, you have shit, from your games, from the legitimate, the fucking reason why you guys exist as a multi-billion-dollar company, fucking not being, like, treated until now. Like, how the fuck, man? Like, how do you do that? Especially, like, oh, it's a big company, they have to care about their shareholders. Guess what? Do you know what the biggest issue is? Oh, it's not you making enough money to get your the shareholders happy. It's the fact that no one wants to support a goddamn company that allows toxic workplaces. No one. There's a reason. There's a reason why there's, like, people are fucking flipping shit. People are walking out on you guys. Like, I don't know, like, what the hell is going on with, like, huge companies when, like, oh yeah, here's this, like, huge ass issue. Why don't we just, get them removed? Fire them. Or, better yet, actually be a fucking competent goddamn workplace that people would enjoy. Again, I don't know. This is an outsider looking in. They may have their own ulterior motives that helps them. And, I guess it's like the lesser of two evils in their eyes. But, like, again, I can't see this anything but this, like, a sick fucking thing. Like, this is just disgusting in my opinion. Now, speaking of, like, Max Exodus that you actually talked about, I kind of want to actually wrap this up on World of Warships. So there was actually a little thing that actually happened, and actually this came up to me because a couple of other gaming channels actually talked about this. And so what this is that World of Warships, if you haven't heard of, is one of many games that Wargaming has created, and it's based off of the same elements of World of Tanks and World of Warplanes, where essentially it is you own a series of types of ships that you can upgrade, you can go through, and you are part of, like, simulated battles. Like, you can get for like World War II, from early World War II to, I think, at near the end of it. I don't exactly remember, like, the time frame for it, like, of that. But you can get, like, destroyers, cruisers, aircraft carriers, frigates. And so the one thing is that there's also something that exists of the creator partnership, right? And so what the whole, like, creator the creator, like the content creator thing is that it is like a group of people, like, and that creates content. And it doesn't have to be like a specific type. It's like a creator partnership program, or it's like you have content creators, you have ship designers, you have artists, and it's all part of this. And it's like kind of that thing that kind of shows off its creative values. Here we go. The Community Contributors Program. That's what it's called. And so essentially what it is that it is, like, user content represents a large and important part of the project for the World of Warships team. And they're, highly grateful for our players to help us develop our game. But recently there was a thing where it was a max exodus of content creators from this program. And the reason is actually stemmed from an artist or a ship builder, like a ship designer, who was contacted by the company, by the North American team of the company, to create a ship that is, if I remember correctly, I think it was like Canadian or something like that. Let me actually see if I can bring up the whole thing for that. controversy because loves that. Here we go. Alright, so, yep. Here we go. So, that's actually for a couple of things, huh? That's good to know. So the first one is that in like this is based off of a creator essentially quitting because like they just left. Like they left the creator contribution program because they were asked to make a ship. Like a unique ship for I think, let me see here, for Canada. And so essentially it was like, oh, make a Canadian warship that that you would be able to kind of like show off, and it's like it's great. And so she's gone, like she does it, she makes it and like shows it off. And guess what? They don't use it. Yep. They don't use it, and then the one that they do use makes so many different changes, they might as well have just done a different ship. Like, they may have just created the ship themselves. They also renamed the ship from what the original name was to what it was now. Now, this, apparently this was, like, going on for a while, because a lot of people have been complaining about this, and then, because of that, and because that the fact essentially, their ship was just tossed away, they just said, you know what? I'm done with this. I've been disrespected. My stuff, like they ask for my stuff and they never use it, or they change everything to the point where it's not mine. I don't want to contribute to this anymore. And so,
Okay.
that's kind of like where it starts. Now, one thing is that really kind of started the whole chaos and really was the massive keg that was lit by the fuse was a specific ship. Now, the ship was called the USS Missouri. Now, if you don't know the lore, like the history of the USS Missouri, no worries. Long story short, it is essentially the location that ended World War II in the Pacific Theater and for the entire world. That was the final location. It was on the USS Missouri because that's where the Emperor actually signed the Declaration of Surrender to the United States. And so, it was, lore-wise, it's such a huge, influence, especially for, like, those guys. And honestly, those people, I can always appreciate that because it's, like, it's something that you're kind of, like, enjoying because you're using something in history. But, looking back into the game side itself, the USS Missouri actually had a very interesting perk to it. And so what the USS Missouri did was that it was able to give a credit multiplier. Now, in the game, you earn credits by participating in matches, getting kills, etc., etc. And with those credits, you can actually buy and upgrade your, the ranks and get new ships that are faster, better, and, you'd be able to enjoy more. And that credit multiplier made it where it essentially was breaking the economy of World of Warships. Now, this was something that was put in the game back in 2016. And then after 2 years, now, after they realized, oh, the economy's essentially broken, they removed it. Now, what happened is that, they were planning on introducing it initially as an item that can be bought with in-game purchase, premium currency. Which is equivalent of silver for Destiny 2. But then Wargaming decided, you know what? We got a better idea. We're just gonna slide that over into loot boxes. So they advertise that, oh, you can buy this straight up. Here you go. And then people they slid it into, oh, you can get this if you buy loot boxes. Have fun. And so, and that is where it essentially is just like, all right, no, that's fucked. Because again, just like with Halo 5, they advertised one thing but showed something completely fucking else. And a lot of people saw that as like, all right, this is fucked. And so huge content creators from the community contributors program has said, like, you know what, fuck this, we're gonna leave. And they have announced it publicly as well. Like, to give you an idea.
Oh, is this leading to the promo code thing?
Yeah, actually, that is also something that popped up as well. I actually didn't realize it until I was looking it up right now. Where there's a little fun thing about a promo code. It's so good. I love that. I still find that fucking hilarious. But essentially what it was is that, for example, this is from Mighty Jingles. He is a very huge, content creator for World of Warships, as and part of the community contributor program with over 600K subscribers on YouTube. He says, like, he's going to keep the show is not to waste anyone's time. Being in the program was a privilege in the first 2 years when the contributions were made were respected and valued. And the feedback in both directions was something I was happy to be a part of. In the last 3 years, and the last year in particular, it's become a toxic one-way relationship that I'm glad to put behind me. The fact that you literally have somebody say, like, yo, it was great in the beginning, but this shit bad. The honeymoon phase is over. I fucking hate this. I'm out. You never want that. You never want to hear that. You never want that to be the one thing that people say. Like, I would rather have it where it's like, due to other certain, things, or for mental health, you'd more likely hear that because, one, it's them taking, okay, this is something on their end. When you have literally people blaming you being the reason why they're leaving, never a good thing. And because of this announcement, there was also, by that weekend, more than it says 23 others have joined him in leaving. And so, and here's the best part. Here's the best part about this. Of course, Wargaming responded. After a few days. They did not respond as soon as, this whole thing. They waited days.
Okay.
And they said nothing. And it's like, we respect their decision and want to thank them for the contributions, devotion, and passion for the game and program over several years. We wish them all the best luck and hope they will stay in touch with us. Nevertheless, we'll always be here to talk. And then we've been discussing since last week and decided to add an alternative way to purchase the ship. And we'll provide details on our dev blog soon. So, apparently, it's the alternative way was likely going to be the initial way that it was advertised. And that was the whole point. But then, fast forward to recently, we have the good old promo code debacle. That's always fun to think about that. But I still think that's always it's always fun when you just have a good little thing where a promo code, and it looks like a code that was sent out as a freebie to some Russian fans, that was watching the stream was WOLAXU 5 FKUTURY 5. Now, it doesn't seem like that bad, but if you actually spell that out, there's something that essentially says, fuck you, Turi. And at that point, they're just like, okay, you're getting booted out of this. This is not, we're suspending you. Like, that shit is not gonna fly. But the fact of the matter is, like, you have essentially an employee making a promo code that insults a streamer. And that streamer's name is... his name is Turi, and he was actually kicked out of the contributors program because he was actually being critical of the developers, which, let's be real, does seem kind of concerning when, you know, if everyone's a critic, kicking out critics does not give you brownie points. And so, you know, long story short, wargaming's really, really up shit's creek and without a paddle. Like, they have a lot of damage control to do, as well as, you know, as trying to, like, figure out what the hell to do next, because, one, you have, like, so many prominent creators leaving your plate, like, your entire program, because guess what? You're not taking their suggestions, which was the initial reason that existed. And then, you know, false advertisement, misleading practices. Like, there's just so many things, and it's always...
Sounds like a shit show, to be honest.
Oh, yes, 100%. Like, this is just, like, I don't even know how, like, because I thought, oh, it was, like, the whole thing with the content creator program. I looked into this a little bit more, and boom, you just have, oh, yeah, by the way, we lied to you guys, because, you know, we're a game company. And then, you know, you have a fucking asshole of an employee who's salty because, oh, one of the old content creators was critical and we booted them, so we're gonna just blatantly say fuck you to him through a promo code. Like, that just, like, they are shooting themselves in the foot so many times that they might as well just amputate the damn thing. Like both, like, people just need to, like, you know, accept responsibility, do what they intended to actually say.
Fucking wild to me, like...
And, like, it's just... I'm just impressed about, like, how much shit, like, popped up. Because all this popped up within a month. Within a month.
It's kind of wild to me, I think.
Like we kind of knew about Wargaming Incorporated because of World of Tanks, World of Warplanes, and World of Warships, but to literally have your name be known as essentially World of Scam, it says a lot. It says a lot when the thing that puts you on, like, you know, on the main page of many different people's, like, news, it's not, oh, there's something new. It's, oh, we have a controversy. Yeah. Like, no, you don't want that. You never want that. And I think one of these days, and I really hope that, you know, people will get their shit together. I really hope that the people who are, you know, who are responsible for this shit get what they deserve. And this is in both locations, you know, in Wargaming. I hope the people that, you know, that did this shit, that essentially, like, lied to their fan base, their player base, saying that, oh, a premium ship that, you know, you could have gotten by just purchasing it, guess what? You gotta actually just randomly gamble. That they need to be, like, you know, serious talking to, as well as potentially, like, you know, reprimanded in some way. And then for Activision, well, you know what needs to happen. Those guys need to get fucking booted.
Usually I'm all for like companies talking back to like customers because sometimes it's just like, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's wild to me that like the way they decided to talk back was by straight up saying "fuck you" through a promo code.
I mean, you gotta
Like
give props
that's
on creativity, but still.
not only is that a weird way to do it, but it's like
That's so stupid.
not a good look because you're doing that to someone who's rightfully criticizing your bullshit.
I mean, yeah, like...
It's not like someone who's like calling, like insulting you for no reason or anything. It's literally they're calling you out for your bullshit, and you're gonna decide to
Yeah, you're gonna...
be a child and insult them through a promo code.
It's just like the amount of... And it's always interesting when you have...
I could understand if like maybe like there were other things that happened, like let's say like they just didn't lie and like other thing and the person was insulting them and it just wasn't the situation. Like let's say it was a completely different situation and Turi was like the actual bad person in it. I could maybe understand. But because this isn't a bad situation, it's just,
I mean, it... See, the thing
it's
is
just
that...
like, it's wild to me.
I mean...
That they somehow thought that this was going to go over well for them.
I mean, honestly, in my eyes, the way that I see this and the way that I think that, this whole thing should happen, there's no easy way to, to respond to criticism other than just saying, all right, whatever, cool.
This wasn't even really a response to criticism. This was just being an idiot.
Honestly, though, like, dude, you already booted the guy. Like, fucking relax, bro. Relax. You don't need to do any more. You already did the damage. Just chill. Let's fucking chill. But, like, the thing is that people need to hold these companies to a higher standard. And they need to actually bring them, make them accept responsibility. In this case, have your voice heard with your wallet, because that's the only thing that makes these guys listen. Like, again, World of Warcraft, oh, they're finally doing the changes. Oh, when did that happen? Oh, yeah, we lost 55% of our player base. And so when this was something that could have been avoided.
Yeah.
Game companies need to listen to their player base, and if it is something that's like being worked on, let them know. Be transparent. Like, you don't have to tell them the whole thing. Like, yes, we're gonna be doing this, and this, and this. Like, hell, like, again, I'm gonna go back to Bungie. Yeah, they never said that. Oh, we're gonna apply anti-cheat. But it shows that they're still taking responsibility and they're doing matters in their own hands. They had lawsuits sent out to different companies that, to different websites that were selling cheats for Destiny 2. I mean, hell...
What do you mean they never said they were going to implement anti-cheat? They've been talking about anti-cheat for well over a year.
Well, I mean, they haven't, explicitly said until recently. But it's still the fact of the...
not true.
Did they give, a time frame for
They
it?
have talked about anti-cheat before. They never give a time frame.
Yeah, sorry for the miscommunication. It's the time frame itself, because... But, again, it's still the fact that they are responding, they are saying it. They are saying, yes, we are, we're doing that. And then also, we're seeing action on their end as well. Hell, they're doing joint lawsuits with other game companies.
They've been doing that, though.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. It's that it's showing it as well. And so the fact of, they care, it shows something. They have initiative. They give a shit. Why can't other companies do that? I don't know. It's likely because of the size thing. I wouldn't be surprised it's because of the size. Uh, man, this month has been weird when it came to like news, you know? On one end,
Yeah.
we're hyped for fucking Destiny 2 to become like more epic than it has before, especially with like, the whole thing for Witch Queen and like the lead up to it. And then on the other side, you have yes, we have allegations of essentially evidence being destroyed or being, hidden. And then essentially just like straight up insulting like community members for no reason, and then also just taking advantage of the contributor program when you know it the initial use isn't even applied. So it's always an interesting thing. Always a fun time to just look into it. But I think that would be a good place to kind of wrap it up with, is that, if you're ever looking into making a game or working in a game company, make sure they give a shit about their player base. Because guess what? They're the reason why you have a job. So that's the way that I see it. That's the way that I'm going to end off on my end. Anything that you have on your end?
Not really. I didn't know a whole lot about the World of Warcraft, the World of Warship thing. That came out of fucking left field.
Yeah, again, like all that happened within like the last few weeks. Like
Yeah,
me saying
again,
it was
I wouldn't know because I don't pay attention to that franchise or people.
the same here. I mean, I found this out when one of the people that I watched brought it up, and so I was like, what the fuck? But anyway, that's gonna be it for now. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed. If you do want to see more stuff like this, do let us know. And again, if you have any other comments or questions or opinions about this, put in the comments. I'd be down to chat with you guys, especially with stuff like this. And if there's anything else that you want us to cover, do let us know. We'll be able to look into it, see what's going on, and we'll be able to discuss it next time. But if you do want to see more, do hit the subscribe button, as well as go check out Sapphire. He streams, as well as you're on YouTube, right?
I do have a YouTube, yes.
Yeah, because I know it's like you recently were using you're doing YouTube, but I'll
I did
definitely
YouTube to test some things, yeah.
yeah, but I'll be dropping both links. Do follow them both on Twitch and on YouTube. And normally we would do this live. This is just a special episode where it's not. So check that out. Give me a follow at ToxicAWOL_TV, as well as at SapphireStratus. But until then, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Oh, you're not going to say anything?
Hey, take care. Bye.
Take care, guys. Bye.